Peace. I woke up this morning thinking about institution building, and I wanted to take a moment to elaborate on that. And when you think about institutions, you have informal and formal institutions. Informal institutions just represent cultural customs and practices. So, for example, you've heard the phrase institution of marriage before. And that just represents a cultural custom and practice. Now, that, as well as any cultural custom and practice, they all have their origin in formal institutions. Now, a formal institution is an actual brick and mortar establishment or organization. And the reason why they have their origin there is because a brick and mortar establishment or organization not only provides the safe space to develop cultural customs and practices, but it also protects the interests of the people who are establishing those cultural customs and practices. When you look at a person that's striving to establish something informally, without any structure, without any walls, without any roof, the reason why it doesn't really have sustainability is because they are constantly exposed to the elements. There's no way to really protect their cultural interests while they're practicing that because they have no shelter. It's almost like saying a child can be born without a womb. When a child is within a woman's womb, that womb represents the first institution or the safe space that provides the resources or the nutrients for the growth and development of a child. Now, when a child is born from that physical womb, a child is born into a social womb where now they go through the next phase of their growth and development, which is primarily social emotional. Now, when you think about a brick and mortar establishment, that is not only representative of a physical womb, but it also represents the social womb because it provides an opportunity for a child to grow on a social emotional level. Now, what do I mean by that? When our children go to school every day for several hours, whether it's public, private, charter, even if they're homeschooled, several hours a day does not consist of incremental transactions between them and a teacher. The real education takes place by socializing and congregating amongst their peers, as well as socializing and congregating amongst the staff, the teachers, and the administration. That's where the real education is taking place. It's social emotional. So when you're talking about building a brick and mortar establishment or organization, that safe space is a social emotional learning environment. If a person is talking about establishing some institution in a very informal way, it does not provide the social emotional environment for a person to actually learn because it has no structure to it. That is one of the reasons why the Atlantis School for Gifted Youngsters is a brick and mortar establishment or organization. It's not only to protect the interests of those of us who are establishing it, but it also allows us to create the learning environment that helps perpetuate the next phase of a child's growth and development, which is primarily social emotional. So I will this was inspiring, it was empowering, it was educational, and gave those of you a little bit more insight into what an informal institution is in relationship to a formal institution and why it is important for us to invest in actual brick and mortar establishments and organizations. Informal institutions such as cultural customs and practices all have their origin there. And if there is no there, there won't be no here after. Peace.